What's cracking with you people? This is the Devious Wolf, and today we are going to I'm going to be giving you guys a special treat. For this particular, let me tell you something, I wanted to tackle this in my favorite first-person shooter of all time. As you can tell on screen, it is a LucasArts film. A LucasArts game. Therefore, it's either Star Wars or Indiana Jones. I'll give you a hint. It's Star Wars. I have been a big Star Wars fanboy as far back as I can remember. Watching episode 4 for the first time was probably the best thing I've ever done. Now as you can see, I already have a few files up. This is my cousin's, this is mine. For the sake of this video, I'm going to do a new game. We're going to call it... We're just gonna do it like this, cause not sure if I'm coming back to this one or not, but I wanted to use this game to illustrate what I like to call gaming variety. Now, as you can see in the background, there is frame stuttering. I don't think, and I haven't played the game in a long time, but I think that's part of the game. If not, you have to understand I'm playing this on the 360. It is a classic Xbox game, so you might have some stuttering. There could be an update required for it to run smoothly, but for the purposes of this one, we're just going to do a quick little thing. Campaign map. Oh yeah, you can actually pick the campaign. I forgot about that. Well, right now we're just going to go through it. I'm going to be talking over the cutscenes in this one, so I'm not going to be going quiet. But I wanted to illustrate a few things about first-person shooters and gameplay variety in general. So, without further ado, let's start a new game for right now. The beginning. Now, I want now to accurately describe my experience with Star Wars Republic Commandos. Republic Commando was not the first-person shooter I've ever played. I want to say it's the third, because I remember. Wait. I can't do this. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Ha ha ha. Yes. Okay. Yeah. For the first time ever, I'm going to do this. Invert. Accept. Okay. Thank God. I forgot it wasn't set that to default. But for the purposes of this, I think GoldenEye and Perfect Dark were the first two FPSs I ever played. This game I played I want to say right at the start of the Xbox library, because it came out fairly early on. It came out right after Halo, but I played this before I got Halo. To accurately describe what Republic Commando is, it essentially is a squad simulator. It's kind of think of it like brutal. Think of it like the Call of Duty gameplay style, like early Call of Duty gameplay style, with pre-Modern Warfare meets Halo's level of storytelling, which is a plus or minus depending on who you are. I find it to be a plus. And Brutal Legends, the Tim Schafer game, is Brutal Legends style of team management. So too shall you join the three brothers and become fierce soldiers for the Republic. Now the point of now the story of Republic Commando is that you are the squad leader of a group of 4 commandos.
Delta 40, your foundation, a pure and uncomplicated soldier. 6-2, the heart and soul of your team. And 07, the fiercest hunter of all your brothers. You are each a piece of a whole person, and the Republic will call you to defend and give your lives if need be.
I think that pretty much accurately just sums up this game. But the whole point of this game is that you're the leader of a squad. You tell them where to go, how to behave, how to act and react, and you plan around each squad mate in particular. Now, I'm gonna say it right now, the game mechanics inside this game and the way this game looks, even today, in my opinion, and maybe I'm blind, nostalgia blind, whatever you want to call it, I find this game still holds up graphically to this day. It's still a good game to play. The game is fun. The characters are lovable. The writing is no, I won't say the writing's that clever, because it's been a long time since I've actually actually played Republic Commando. I want to say at this point the last time I picked it up was maybe 7-8 years ago. Yeah, it's a decent amount of time, but it's still my favorite Star Wars game of all time. And if memory serves correctly, this is, I think, the only Star Wars game that doesn't start off with the Star Wars fanfare at the top of the game. I don't think. I'm about to find out now. Because if it does start off with it, I'm going to end up cutting it out because copyright! Yeah, it just drops you into it. It doesn't start with the Star Wars fanfare. But I want to talk about gaming variety. When it comes to first-person shooters, there are 3 styles of gameplay, and each one is encapsulated in essentially the big 3 first-person shooters of the current generation. You have the slow and methodical. Well, the slow and I want to say the slow and clunky. I want to say more than anything else, which is Battlefield. Yeah, Battlefield. I say slow and clunky based on you know, I played Battlefield 1942. I played Battlefield 3 at a friend's place, and I've seen some gameplay footage online here and there, and it seems like it's quick if you know what you're doing, but if you don't, it can be very, very slow. Then there's, oh my, then there's the very quick action-oriented gameplay style of Call of Duty. Saving game checkpoint. Okay. And then there's the middle ground, which is Halo. It's not too fast, but at the same time, it's not too slow. And there's a greater emphasis placed on story more than anything else. And each game has its own story. I have not experienced a Battlefield story, so I will not comment on it right now. I make it a policy to not comment on games of which I have not played. But for the most part, Call of Duty and Halo have 2 very different gameplay styles. Well, obviously 2 very different gameplay styles, but 2 very different storytelling styles, and I think that's crap, what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that, okay, my main point here is that we need different variety for the shooters in which we have. It's one of the main reasons why I stopped playing Halo. Halo has gone more Call of Duty-esque in years, and I don't know if it still holds up in Halo 5, honestly, because Halo 4 has kind of killed my interest in the series, just in terms of gameplay-wise. I even heard the story was bad, which I think was slow down, man, you're speaking too fast. But in my opinion, the story was the one thing Halo had over Call of Duty. The story was smart. It was cleverly written. It actually had a pretty subtle commentary about organized religions and whatnot if you actually played through the first 3 games. I'm talking about Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, and Halo Wars. I'm not including Halo 4 in that because we'll get to that when we get to it. But story is a subjective matter. You're probably not going to find the same level of You're probably not going to find the same storytelling. You're probably not going to find the same level of storytelling in a certain game from the gaming style. For instance, Halo is a very floaty game. It's a very floaty game. It's very much sci-fi as you're not supposed to take it very seriously. So therefore, the story's going to be a little bit more fun. Call of Duty is a little bit more serious. It's very much grounded. It's supposed to be gritty and realistic as you can be in a video game without completely killing the fun factor of the game. So therefore, the story, while fictional, is supposed to take place in an area or in a style that we can believe it could happen. We could believe that this story could inevitably happen. How much you're willing to lend yourself to that is all depends on how well the game itself is crafted. Honestly, it's kind of hard for me to. It really is kind of hard for me to make this point having to actually focus on a game, because usually I use games that aren't that intensive for me to focus on. So this is going to be quite the interesting exercise. And hey, if you want to, hey Scorch. But if you want to broaden your horizons and improve your skill set, you're going to have to improve your you're gonna have to improve your you're gonna have to expand out your comfort zone. And my comfort zone was pretty much using games that weren't that intensive for me to focus on for to let me tell you somethings, and I'm branching out and doing that. Variety is it even applies in when you're trying to work on something. Now then, I want to bring this up because it's kind of main reason why I really don't want to bring it. Because there was a point in time where Call of Duty was the king. It was the gaming force. It was the gaming force. You know that was how you made an FPS. And I will not deny, Call of Duty is a very well put together FPS. It's a very fun game to play. I just got tired of it because every other game under the sun was copying it. Homefront was one of them. I want to say it was a game based on the Korean. Well, I think it was North Korea took over the United States, or I think took over the war. I can't remember what the exact. I can't remember what the exact premise of it was. But when I looked at it, I'm like, this looks exactly like Call of Duty, even down to the targeting crosshair. And then Medal of Honor came out, and that looked like Call of Duty. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess everyone's just doing the Call of Duty thing then, which can't really blame them because it was a very popular. It's a very popular series at the time. And I think up to that point, I think Battlefield and Halo are the only three games that seem to be very individualized. Like there was variety there. Battlefield isn't my cup of tea, I'm not gonna lie. I like that for an intro.
Uploading and linking with your visor, sir.
But so I fall back to Halo because Halo was a much more story-oriented game, and you guys know how I am. I like a story, and I like a story in a game. I like my games to have an entertaining story at the very least. Crap! Now I'm rambling like a mug. But the thing is, the reason why Republic Commando is my all-time favorite is that I feel like Republic Commando does a good job of incorporating the gameplay style of Call of Duty. The early ones, anyway, is by no means plays like the current Call of Duties, not even close. And the storytelling that I prefer in my games, you know, the storytelling that I like to see happen in games, especially in shooters. And considering the fact that it played a lot like, that the story was a lot like Halo in a sense. Well, I should say Halo's a lot like this story in terms of its telling in a sense. I got into it very fast, and thusly I carried over into Halo, and I got into that very fast.
Let's go in quietly.
And I feel like gaming variety has kind of fallen by the wayside nowadays. Every other game is either a remake, a reboot, or an homage to older games. And which is really sad, because if you really think about it, there actually are a lot of good games that I could write off as being just retreading old ground, not being interesting, like Shovel Knight, for instance. Shovel Knight is a good game. I'm not about to say it's a bad game. I've never played it. I'm not gonna lie. I've never played it, but I've seen how it plays. It looks like it plays a lot like older 8-bit platformer games, and it looks solid. I hear nothing but good things about it, so it can't be a bad game. And it's, I think, from what I've seen, I think it's a good example of how to
Give me an explosive solution.
about how to use a gameplay style and still be unique about it. At least from what I've seen. And oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I am really losing it today.
Take cover down.
You can tell, can't you? But for the most part, Scorch, what are you doing? Okay. But for the most part, we need variety in games, and a lot of people, which brings me to my next thing. A lot of people love the rag on Call of Duty for not being very original, for not being very good, for not being really anything. Honestly, Call of Duty's problem is that it's repetitive. It suffers from what I like to call the Mario syndrome. There's a new game out every year, or what it feels to be every year. There's nothing much else coming out around it to alleviate some of that repetition, and thusly you notice it. You notice it when it happens. You notice that there really isn't much being changed about the game from iteration to iteration, at least the series from installment to installment. And as a result, you notice more and more the flaws of the game. However, that being said, Call of Duty should not be put to the wayside. It should not be written off. It should not be dismissed. It should not be ridiculed for being Call of Duty. This is coming from a guy who doesn't like Call of Duty. Call of Duty is needed in the gaming space. Games like Call of Duty are needed to illustrate that just because you have a good idea for one game doesn't mean it can translate to every game. Which is the main reason why I didn't like Halo 4. Halo 4 played too much like Call of Duty, and not enough like Halo, like the original Halo games, in which it was floaty. The weapons were ridiculously powerful, and the story was the main focus of it. Call of Duty, you can very much tell, and this is no disrespect to the people who write the stories in Call of Duty. I'm sure there's a lot of effort and time put into the stories told in Call of Duty. They're just not interesting. But that's fine, because the gameplay of Call of Duty is very fun, very gripping, very engaging. And we need that variety in our games, in our genres of games. You have a fast, a medium, and a slow. And for each and for
Don't worry. I saved some targets for you guys.
and now we're going to do this right here. Boom, knife blade. But for each game series, racer, platformer, shooter, fighter, party game, you need variety or else when you do, oh, I forgot about this, or when you do, or when you release a new game, it just seems like you're copying the most popular thing at the time, which isn't fair, which really isn't fair when, what's the word? When it's very clear that the people who make these games are putting a lot of effort into them, or at least we make it very clear. For instance, Homefront in and of itself, I don't think is a bad game. I have not played it, but from what I hear, a lot of the issues with it are just that it just wasn't fleshed out that much. When I saw it and thought this plays a lot like Call of Duty, I'm like, I don't really want to play this because it just doesn't seem like it's doing anything visually interesting. And that's sad because game devs should be allowed to experiment with a style, experiment inside of a style, and really branch out. And the new Homefront game looks like that's what they're doing. They're actually branching out while still maintaining the style that they were paying homage to. And in the end, I feel like it might become a better series for it. And I feel like people wrote it off too soon just for looking like it plays like Call of Duty. Same thing with other game fighters. Any other game genres. Now, who the heck is that? But either way, the main thing I want to bring up, even inside these rambling, at this moment of rambling, because, like I said, I'm not really good at doing these active playing segments. We need this variety. We need to have different styles of gameplay to show what works and what doesn't work. And I hope that at the end of the day, we come to understand that just because one game series is popular and good doesn't mean you should hate on it because it's popular, because it's popular at the time, because it's overshadowing something you may like. We need a variety so that we can have competition in terms of what is being put out, not how well someone does one thing compared to another person. It's how differently they do it and how well they do it differently. That's the important thing. And I hope that you guys take that from this video and these ramblings. If not, then I failed in communicating my point. If so, then I hope to see your comments and see your reactions and responses in the comments down below. Until next time, I've been Devious Wolf. Take care.